Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Sports by Jared. If you like this video, please hit the like and subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Today I want to talk to you about Cassius Winston and Xavier Tillman from Michigan State. As we know, in draft season, the biggest prospects that everyone takes notice of are always the freshmen. But sometimes when you get some of the players who are seniors, if you look at the ages, they're not much older than these sophomore prospects, and some of these freshmen are a little bit older. So what you're getting in some of these senior players who are 21 and 22 is a guy who will have possibly just as long as an NBA career as the guys who coming out sophomore, freshman year. But there are also more NBA ready because they've refined their game and they're better shooters. If I'm a team and I'm in need of a point guard, but I don't have a top lottery pick, I'm looking for a guy like Cassius Winston. Cassius Winston put up about 18 points a game, was all SEC. Not all SEC, but all Big Ten. He averaged, he was able to hit about 43%, 44% from the field, 43% from three. As we all know, that in the NBA, the three-point line has revolutionized the game. Having a guy who can come in and hit 43% right away, or even if, his three-point shooting doesn't translate right away, but he's able to score about 38 or shoot at a 38% clip from three-point range, that's a second-round steal. From all projections, he's projected to go in the second round. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going in the first round. A team picking late who doesn't have a point guard, a la the Clippers or maybe the Lakers, could get a guy like Cassius Winston, and I could see him putting in viable minutes, even if that's only in the regular season, because, shortened rotations in the playoffs is going to limit any rookie, and unless you're maybe the Miami Heat. And I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Miami Heat took a look at Cassius Winston as well. They've had a lot of success picking guys late and being able to produce right away. Tyler Hero was picked in the late lottery, but also you had Duncan Robinson, who was an undrafted guy who put up pretty good numbers for the Miami Heat and was definitely a great addition for them and part of the reason why they made the finals. The next guy that I'm really interested in, and I don't think he gets enough media attention, is Xavier Tillman. Well, I know 13 points and 10 rebounds aren't sexy stats. If you look at him play, he has a really good athleticism, and he's a pretty decent shooter. When I look at him, to me, he looks like he can be a Draymond Green type player, and he could possibly be even better because I see some athleticism that Draymond Green doesn't have. It looks like he has, a large wingspan as well. I think a lot of teams could use him. He fits the 3-and-D era big man. He's not overly tall, about 6'8", but he's pretty gritty. And the way that the NBA is now, if you're about 6'8" to 6'10", and you're athletic and you can shoot a little bit and you can defend, I think he was a pretty good defender, pretty good shot blocker, then you can make a living in the NBA and you can do pretty well for yourself. So if I'm a team picking late, I'm looking at these two guys from Michigan State, and I'm thinking I could find me a guy that could really help my team in a draft spot that I wouldn't expect it from normally. This year's draft could probably do a lot for a lot of teams in the second round, and if I'm looking, Cassius Winston and Xavier Tillman have really advanced games. They're really both good in the pick and roll. In the NBA, pick and roll is a very good skill to have. If you looked at, some of the teams that made it pretty far, their pick and roll game was tremendous, especially if you look at, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I think they really mastered the pick and roll game, and it can do wonders for your NBA team. And it doesn't really matter where you're drafted in the NBA draft. It matters how you produce, and I think Cassius Winston and Xavier Tillman will be the two guys that, even if they don't, automatically make an instant impact in the NBA, they will be, guys who can come in, produce in the G League, and then maybe 1 or 2 years from now, they'll be high-level players off the bench or high-level starters. Because, if you can get a guy who can give you about 12 points a game as maybe off the bench or maybe a fourth or fifth option, you're putting your team in good position to win. And especially with the teams late in the draft who are going to need a point guard. I think another team that doesn't get a lot of publicity for draft picks, but are going to be major players in the NBA draft possibly, is the Oklahoma City Thunder. As we all know, we've all heard of a million trade requests about Chris Paul possibly leaving. I don't think you accept Chris Paul leaving and don't pick up another point guard or another backcourt member. We've seen Shai Gilgeous-Alexander play well at the point guard position, but right now they're kind of, they got Lugensdort, who's a pretty decent, shooting guard, but, they're going to need some more wing players if they plan on doing well next year, because they're probably going to take the biggest dip without Chris Paul. As we all know, Chris Paul is a winner. Losing him is a big loss on your team. I don't think there's anybody in the draft that'll be able to replace him. But if I lose to Chris Paul, I'm not as mad as if I can get a Cassius Winston maybe in the second round, maybe get, an athletic big in the first round. Also, other teams that you should look at who could use like one of these Michigan State guys is like the Atlanta Hawks. They have a lot of young players figuring it out. But they could use some guys with some experience even at the college level, who have like that role players mentality, who play a role and specialize in their role. I think the reason why Atlanta Hawks struggle so much trying to make the playoffs is because everybody on their team was like a high school or college star, and they're not too far removed from high school or college, so it kind of takes you longer to buy into your role. While everybody thinks that, Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter might end up being stars, you never know. They might just be high-end role players. Cam Reddish especially, he might be a high-end role player, but he needs some time to buy into his role, and during that transition, it'd be good to have somebody like Cassius Winston or Xavier Tillman, or just somebody to back up Trae Young, because Jeff Teague probably will not be on their team next year. So having a backup point guard who has a little bit of talent, can hold the fort down while he, takes a rest, could do major wonders for the Atlanta Hawks. And also being a plus defender helps because, the Hawks lack on defense. Another team that, Xavier Tillman, I think, can fit on is possibly the Washington Wizards. Right now, the Wizards have, a pretty decent roster with John Wall and Bradley Beal. If John Wall comes back full strength, the Wizards can at least be, a fifth or sixth seed in the East. Adding a guy like Tillman to come off the bench to like step in for Rui when Rui's tired or goes to the bench would make a big difference to the team. For the longest, Washington's need a 3-and-D guy, and I think he would fit into that role perfectly, especially as a power forward. Stretch power forwards are proven to be invaluable. I think the Wizards are probably going to lose Davis Bertans, who was, a revelation last year, but it's not. You got to look out for guys who put up big stats and losing seasons. So I don't think it makes sense for the Wizards to spend the $12 million or more he might be asking for, especially, during a pandemic. But I don't think you particularly replace his production by getting Xavier Tillman, but you might be able to offset some of losing him. And of course, with John Wall coming back, especially if it's at full strength, and he's looked really good in, pickup games in the video, which you can't put too much stock into. But you had a guy like Xavier Tillman and John Wall comes back to full strength, nobody's going to be too sad about leaving Davis Bertans.